Hey guys, Mel the Train Tutor back in the studio and back with another painting guide for you. Yes, we're in the snow, ice and water playlist and we're looking at icebergs and glaciers. Now I've recently been doing some coastal stuff and some small scale naval stuff and that sort of stuff. We've been looking at oceans and quite often I've seen the comment coming, what about icebergs, Mel? How'd you paint those up? So I thought, yeah, we'd do a bit of video on iceberg colours. Now I know what you're saying. Boastful, they're white. No, they're not. Okay, in fact, they're a very special colour. And I'm going to be taking you through the way to mix that colour up and how to use it and that sort of stuff shortly. But before we do, yeah, I want to quickly talk about the actual colours of ice and all that sort of stuff, because understanding it makes it easier to apply it and apply it in a realistic way. And understanding it is the key to getting these things realistic. You know what I mean? So, you've seen icebergs. Why are they blue? Okay, because water's clear. Okay, it is. Water is clear, it's translucent, okay? A flat surface of water will reflect all light, i.e. it acts like a mirror. You see a reflection. In the case of snow, yeah, that's water that's become frozen. It's got air bubbles in it, and the air bubbles act like diffusing mirrors, okay? And they reflect all the light that bounces in. It reflects white, which is why snow is white. Now, snow isn't always pure white. And the reason for that, okay, is skylight, okay, sunlight. We have mainly blue light, yeah, as our normal sort of daylight. It has a blue look to it. And this is because all the colours from the full spectrum light from the sun hit the Earth's atmosphere, they get diffused out, and the colour that gets diffused the most is blue, which is why our sky is blue. Quite often that'll hit an ocean, yeah, that'll reflect it back, and that's why water is blue. Okay, but when you hold a glass up, yeah, water's clear. So why is it in icebergs that it has that sort of blue colour? Well, the truth is that water does actually reflect blue light, but only a tiny amount. Yeah, so that in water, you can't see it. In most ice, you can't see it. But where you get icebergs and where you get glaciers that have been compressed and compressed and compressed, there's a lot more water molecules in that compressed ice. And all those extra water molecules cause this sort of reflection. And that's why you see the blueness in an iceberg. Now, it's not just the blue that's being reflected by the water molecules. Okay, it's all about light vibration and stuff like that. There's a great video on this. I'll put a link down in the description. Yeah, it only takes 4 minutes, but you'll understand it all. Yeah, it's also got some brilliant graphics in for colours for icebergs, so go check it out after this. But it's not just the water that reflects it. There's also things like algae and that sort of stuff. And it can give ice a specific sort of blueness. And it's not really a true blue, it's more of a greeny blue or a teal colour. And that's what I'm going to take you through sort of creating and then applying onto our piece here, our iceberg. Now you can see this here's got lots and lots of ridges and that sort of stuff. So it should work really well for showing you these techniques. But before we do, let me just take you through the colours. So what I've got here is, I've got my palette. Okay, yeah, standard piece of just a white acrylic sheet. I use that as a palette for mixing colours. It shows them really well. And then what I've got is, I've got a blue and I've got a green. Okay, now that is ultramarine blue. It's called ultramarine blue because the blue pigment was found in Afghanistan, and the Greeks named it ultramarine blue because the blue pigment came across the sea. Yeah, I've got sap green. I don't know why it's called sap green, but now I know, I need to find out. Okay, and also we don't need this for the icebergs as such, but if you are doing iceberg terrain and water and that sort of stuff, I've got a bit of burnt umber, and I'll explain what that's about in a little while. Now on top of that, I've got two other colours, yeah, white and black. These are purely to highlight and darken the colour, the tone that we're working with. Okay, so that's all there for. But first we've got to get the blue. Now, if I get a little bit of blue out there, okay, and I get my brush, and what we're going to do is we're going to feather this out so we can see the actual blueness. Yeah, feather it out a bit more there, and a bit more there. Yeah, and all I'm doing is I'm smoothing it out so I can see the different tones of the blue. Okay, now that is pure blue, what we expect to be pure blue. But our our icebergs and things aren't pure blue. They've got this greeny blue, this teal to them. So I've got my sap green here, and we only need a little green. Yeah, so I'm going to put a little bit there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a touch in. Now, it'll take a little bit of blending, so follow me along on this. Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of that green. That's probably too much. Yeah, and start spreading it out. Now, you should just about start to see the sort of colour we want there. So if I bring a bit more blue in. Yeah. A little bit more green, I think. There we go. There we are. Now, that, with the touch of green, is teal. Okay, and that is the colour that we are going for. Yeah, not the blue. Yeah, not the sort of really turquoise, the light turquoise colour. That's the colour it gives off. Now, it can give off slightly more of a green colour if you're really inside it. There's some great visuals. So let's pull a little bit more green in there. Yeah, and just pull that across a bit. And you can literally get it to that sort of colour. Okay, now all this is blue with a tiny touch of green. Now obviously I'm feathering it on a palette to show you the colours. What you do is you get your blob of blue, you get your blob of green, you'd mix them really good until you got the right mix and you'd have a consistent pot of teal there. Now very quickly, while I've got these colours on my palette, yeah, what I do want to show you is with the burnt umber. Now burnt umber is a reddy brown. Okay, it will desaturate the blue and make it darker and give it a certain purple tone. And you can tell my lessons with Fredicus has been paying off. Yeah, but if we add a bit of burnt umber, don't need much. Come on, I'm going to need a new pot of this soon. Amazon wish list down below, guys, if anyone would like to help me out. I've run out of burnt umber. Right, so there's my burnt umber. Okay, just there. Now, if we grab the blue and we drag it into the burnt umber, what it'll do is it'll darken it. Yeah, and it gives it a really dark sort of purple shade. Now, it's quite light at the minute. Yeah, let's throw a bit more of that brown in there. And by mixing in, because it's got a red, gives it this purple hue. Okay? Now, it's a little bit light, but that's the sort of colour you want to be going for your oceans, yeah, in the Atlantic. So this is your frozen ice colours, okay, and this is your sort of dark Atlantic. Obviously, we'd probably throw a bit of black in there. Yeah. That's a lot of black bows. But if we drag it down and we get it down to there, and we darken it down. Now remember, black doesn't change the colour, it just darkens it. Same as white doesn't change the colour, it just lightens it. Yeah, but if I throw in a little bit of black in there, yeah, you start to get this sort of colour. And that is sort of Atlantic, Arctic colours there. Yeah. So, there's your colour palette. Yeah, for your actual ice, you're looking at a core of core blue with a touch of green, depending on preferences. Remember, check that video down below. Yeah. Then on the other side, yeah, if you throw a bit of burnt umber, which is a reddy brown, into the green, it's going to desaturate, it's going to warm it up a little, okay, and it's going to give it that sort of purpley tone, yeah, which is perfect for the Atlantic. So, that's the colour mixing up. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to mix myself a couple of colours based on these mixes, and then we'll go and actually have a look at painting up ice terrain, okay? So, back in a flash. So, my colours are all mixed up. I've got my teal colour and I've just spread it out on my palette just to make sure, and I'm quite happy with that sort of match to my colour. So it's cracking on time. Now we're going to be painting this piece up. I'm going to be using this to demonstrate what we're actually doing here. Okay, and there's a little bit to understand about the colour of ice. Ice is a bit weird because obviously with it being translucent, okay, the actual darkness of the colour isn't so much about the concentration or the shadow, but more about how much light travels through. Like for example on the video I mentioned, in the ice cave, it's actually inside even though it's really dark, because it's only a thin bit of ice, yeah? The light travels through and the colour is quite bright, even though it's compressed ice and it is reflecting that colour. Okay, now what this actually means with regards to doing your terrain, okay, is you want your darkest colours where the ice is thickest, okay, and your lightest colours where the ice is thinnest, yeah, because that's where the light reflects through and makes them lighter. And the thicker the ice, the less light that can reflect through and the darker the colour. Okay, so obviously I've got a bit of black and a bit of white here. Now I don't know straight off putting this on how it's going to look. So I'm going to put a little bit on, and if I think it's too light at the minute, I'll mix a bit of dark in. Yeah, so I've got my blue here, and it's going to look wrong, okay? But go with it. Yeah, so let's get into this crease here. What do you reckon? Touch of black in there, I think. Just a touch. Let's mix in a bit of black and darken that down a bit. Yeah, so give it another go. Yeah, that's it, a bit better. And what I'm going to do is, with this colour, I'm going to go into all my creases. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, I'm being pretty messy. Okay, so I'm going to crack on. I'm going to get all these colours over this. So our dark recess colours are on, and it's looking rather messy. To be perfectly honest, yeah, I'm quite happy with the darkness in here, but I think it's a little bit dark in these grooves. I think the black carried across a little bit too much. But don't worry if this happens to you. It's an easy fix, and we'll fix it at the next stage as we highlight it up. Yeah, so don't worry. Now, a quick tip if you're doing this for terrain sets. Obviously, I'm mixing on the fly as I'm applying to one piece. If you've got a number of pieces or a terrain set and you want to do the lot, just mix up your base colour, your shade and your highlight in advance. Keep them in separate tubs, and then you'll be able to standardise the paint scheme across multiple pieces. But we need to crack on. Now we've done this and it's time to get into some overbrushing. So I've got my palette here. I'm going to grab some of that white and we're going to start to highlight up my base colour. Yeah, and by adding a little bit of white into it. Quick flash. And there we go, slightly more highlighted. Now the technique I'm going to be doing is an overbrushing technique. It's in between painting and dry brushing. So using a dry brush, but getting enough paint on my brush that there's quite a lot. Take off any excess. Yeah, and I'm taking it off on the palette here, so it stays as much as possible, if you know what I mean. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and we're going to start pulling it in and overbrushing, and I'm trying to avoid the complete recesses. Yeah, so I'm just going to be going along here. It is going to be messy again. Yeah, where I've got it too dark, I'll go back in and I'll just use this to line it up. Yeah, and I'm looking at basically doing the transfer between the darker areas and the lighter ones. Okay, so I'm basically going in between that bit, yeah, and that bit to blend them in. Yeah, so my next job is to go along And I'm going to carry on doing this on all these pieces. Where it's too dark, yeah, I'll go over that as well. And that's going to bring it all in, if you know what I mean. So, cracking on time. So that's the mid colours on, and fingers crossed, you're having one of those ooh moments. Look at that. Yeah. Now, as you can see, yeah, where I've gone over the mid-tone, I've blended out where I've gone in a little bit dark, and all it's actually done is left it just a tiny little bit dark in those recesses and giving it some lovely shadow. At the same time, I've sort of blended into the edges on here to sort of get a transition from the light into the dark, and it is looking rather nice. But we've got to step it up one more tone, okay, or I want to. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is my last of my white on here, I'm going to mix into this bit here. Ba ba ba. Yeah, and we'll get that really lightened up. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, let me get plenty of that in. I don't want it too light. Yeah, and then all I'm going to do is come in. Actually, I'm not sure about that now. Maybe a little bit of, what do you call it? A little bit of, nah, we'll be fine. Right. Let's give it a go. Need to lighten it up. A bit more. Back in a sec. And the final stage is we're just going to give it an overbrush. Yeah, using our really light versions, and just catch those really highlighted bits and knock out the, knock out the real excessive shadows. So, I'm going to go along, I'm just going to give this a bit of a highlight and carry on like this, and I'll bring it back when it's done. So that's the last of our blues on, and isn't she looking beautiful? Really nice, really nice. Now, it is important to point out that the only time you would have like sort of these solid blues is if you got a situation with like iceberg terrain where the iceberg had split, perhaps it turned, and it's revealed just the compacted ice underneath. Remember, the loose ice, the fresher snow and the fresher ice, it doesn't reflect the blue because it's not as compacted as the really deep stuff. Now, in the case of this, yeah, when you look at a lot of sort of like glaciers and icebergs, what you actually get is the blue in the deep recesses, and on the top and the sort of edges, it's less compact and therefore it's lighter going up to white. And that's what we're going to do next. But before we do, one quick just comment. This sort of blue is perfectly fine. You don't want to go any bluer than this, but you could put in a little bit more green and go a little bit more green. A bit like that video that I mentioned, yeah, the colours in those, yeah? But this is perfectly fine. But we've got to get this and we've got to make it look a bit more like, you know, a glacier, sort of iceberg sort of thing. And so for that, it's time to whiten it up. Now, I did say at the start that to make realistic snow, because snow reflects and we've got blue light from our atmosphere, yeah, a little touch of blue into your white, yeah, makes it a little bit more realistic. I'm not going to bother with that right now because I don't think we're really going to gain from it, to be perfectly honest, and I just want to show you what the blue looks like in the recesses. Okay, so we'll leave that for now, but if you are doing snow, a touch of blue into your white, yeah, with your very top highlights, works wonders. So, over here I've got a little bit of white, I've got a hog's hair brush, yeah, a dry brushing brush, and I'm just gonna, yeah, it's a mixture between dry brushing and overbrushing, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, and all I'm going to do is, I'm going to go along. You can already see how it's coming out, can't you? Right, you know what I'm going to say. It's cracking on time. Yeah, I'm going to put my tunes on and get this looking beautiful. See you in a sec. And so all our white dry brushing is done. Well, a decent amount anyway. And look at it. Ice terrain. Doesn't it look beautiful? Now, the white has taken a little bit of a blue tinge. I was in a bit of a rush, yeah. The blue wasn't 100% dry, so the white wet paint sort of reactivated a touch of the blue. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. If you're concerned about that, leave your blues overnight. When they're completely dry, come in and do your white dry brushing then. Now, you notice I've just thrown a little bit of extra white, just whitening out the base. It is not finished. It is not snowed up or anything like that. I could certainly give this a coat of PVA or a spray of, hairspray, drop some, drop some snow flock on it, and then give it a satin coat so it gets, a satin varnish coat so it gets that shiny look to it. That would work perfectly well. The reason I'm not taking this any further is this is actually going to become a test piece for me to practice some other snow techniques, keep refining my work, and when I've got something improved that I can show you, I'll bring it back and I can show you then. Yeah, but in the meantime, look at those colours. Now, I've gone quite heavy on the blues on those side, on the whites on that side and that side. We've kept the recesses there. I've also gone quite lightly on the top, just so you can see the sort of comparisons. But it looks beautiful. Yeah, and as you saw, so easy to do. Now, the important thing above all is remember, yeah, snow doesn't really reflect other than the touch of blue in the atmosphere, the daylight sort of blue. It's only when snow ice gets really, really compacted that it really starts to shine and reflect that blue. But it isn't pure blue. It's that teal, that greeny blue. So remember, when you're doing your ice, yeah, get a little bit of your green, mix it in and get it into this sort of tone rather than this one. Yeah, and if I bring this up to here, you should still see that that tone is the right sort of tone. Don't worry about if you go in too dark. As you saw, you can adjust it. Remember, black and white are your colour changes, your highlight and your dark, not different colours. If you put different colours in, like a dark blue or something like that, you're going to change the actual tone of the colour rather than the highlight. So black and white to make it lighter and darker. If you're doing a lot of terrain, then remember, yeah, do your mixes in advance. And then you can standardise it across your terrain. Yeah, obviously I was mixing on the fly because I wanted to show you the mixing, how the colours work and that sort of stuff. But overall, I am really pleased with it. Really pleased with it. I'm a little bit more pleased with it than I actually thought I would be, to be perfectly honest. Don't you love it when terrain works like that? Now obviously, like I say, I'm going to put this to one side and this is going to become a test piece for me, so more stuff on that coming soon. But there you have it. That's how to do ice terrain and the colours for ice. Yeah, that teal colour. Remember, check out that video in the description. Really good. It only takes you 4 minutes to watch, but wow, loads of inspiration, guys. Yeah, and also, as always, guys, if you've got any questions, get them down in the comments. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with your hobby. And if you'd like to help me, well, remember, yeah, I am community supported, and I really cannot do this without your help. So if you really like these videos, if they're helping you with your hobby, please consider supporting me. All the links are down below or on the screen. Yeah, you can do $1 a month at Patreon, and if you're not into the $1 a month thing, yeah, there's a PayPal link below for a one-off, and there's also a link to my Amazon wish list if you're not into money, you prefer to buy something for the studio. It's all on there. I do need some, some more burnt umber. Yeah. Oh yeah, and remember, burnt umber in your blue for the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah. Right. That about wraps it up. So guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Shiny. You can tell, you love it when terrain comes together. Right, guys. More videos coming soon. I'll see you soon. All the best, yeah? Ta-da.